What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets and Rob. How is everybody doing? Before I get started talking about Lucas Giolito to the Mets, don't forget, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button. If you enjoy my content, want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos, and when I go live, you guys know what to do. Hit on that subscribe button, everybody. All right, guys. So we know the Mets unfortunately missed out on Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and he went to the Los Angeles Dodgers, completing their super team in 2024, but the Mets have to pivot somewhere. I do not trust giving a 6-7 year, $200+ million deal to Blake Snell. I don't want a 5-inning pitcher that never goes 7 innings, that walks the ballpark. It's just not an ideal situation. Given a guy, yes, he won a Cy Young, and for 5 innings, he's probably one of the better pitchers in baseball. If you're paying him ace money, you need him to go 6, 7, sometimes occasionally 8 innings when you want to protect your bullpen. You can't rely on your 4th starter, your 5th starter for guys to give you more innings and also give you an excellent start. That's what your ace is for. I am not paying Blake Snell, a guy that walks the ballpark, yes, strikes out a ton, but is a 5-inning pitcher, and that's where I think I'm staying away from Blake Snell. Now, we could talk about Montgomery and the possibility of him, and I would probably like Montgomery, depending on where his market's going to go. But if they were comparing his projections around Carlos Rodon, which I wouldn't mind going, but I'm still a little hesitant. But I've seen what Montgomery can do in the postseason. You know, he's going to give you a 3.8, 3.7 ERA during the season. You know, he's not a great guy that's gonna, light the stats on fire in the regular season, but he shows up in the postseason. He's pitched in New York. But when it comes to Lucas Giolito, I like him. He's a perfect number 3. Everybody's gonna be like, oh, look what happened. Look, he had a terrible year last year. Well, he had a terrible year after he got traded. When he got traded to the Angels, when he got traded to the Angels, then the Guardians. After the Angels released him. He went to the Guardians. Basically 2 different teams in about a month and a half span. It's very hard for somebody to pitch that well. But when he was with the White Sox, he had a 3.79 ERA. And let's be honest, if we're going to be truthful with ourselves, Met fans, Lucas Giolito, 3.79 ERA is your number 3. It's pretty good considering the fact that not one starting pitcher not named Verlander had over a 4.5, 5 ERA in the rotation. So if he can pitch to a 3.6, 3.7 ERA, then I'll take that every day of the week, considering the fact that to give guys 6, 7, 8-year deals over $200 million, that guys that are probably not going to give you a lot of innings, I'd rather give a 4-year deal, which I think that's where Lucas Giolito was probably going to get. 4-year, maybe a 5th-year option, probably around $100 to $120 million. I think that's what the comps you're looking at, since every pitcher is getting overpaid. Average pitchers are getting $15 million. So you think a guy like Lucas Giolito, who's probably a little above average, will get you around $18 to $20 million per year. That's just what average pitchers or above average pitchers are going for. A lot of people don't like it, but that's the market, and that's what you have to deal with, especially with a team like the Mets that need starting pitching, and they're not the only one. So the market's going to go up for these guys no matter what. He pitched 181 innings in 2023, and I think that's important as well. 184 innings for Lucas Giolito, and I think that's important. And we're going to look at his stats just now. Overall in 2023, he had a 4.88 ERA, but again, he didn't pitch well for the Angels. He got traded for the Angels, and the Angels were a disaster as it is. And then they released him, and then the Guardians pick him up, and he was just as bad. What I like to look at is that on a bad White Sox team, he found the way to still pitch under a 4 ERA, give them 121 innings, gave up a lot of home runs, gave up 20 home runs, 41 in total for 2023. But that was a rare year because in his other years, he gave up 24, 27. So it's not, he's around that 20 to 25 mark, which is right around an average to above average pitcher in the amount of home runs they give. And that's just the way it goes when it comes to guys like this. But if you can get them for a 4-year deal, possibly 5th-year option, around the $100 to $120 million, I would do that. He's a solid number 3. I think he is better than what he's shown with the Angels and the Guardians. And I think he can be a little bit better because if you look at the years that he was with the White Sox a couple of years ago, he was pitching to a 3.4, 3.5 ERA. If you get that from your third starter, you are golden. And I think we have to realize that if the Mets are going to get an ace, I don't know if the Mets are going to see Senga now as their ace. Are they going to pivot to a Snell or a Montgomery? It's yet to be determined. I still believe they're going to go into the trade market. I still think David Stearns, with the relationship he has, with the trade he just made with the Brewers, I think it sets up perfectly for a Corbin Burnes type of trade. And I know he said that he wouldn't trade prospects for rentals, but he knows Corbin Burnes. He knows why Corbin Burnes is upset with the Brewers. Corbin Burnes is willing to sign an extension with the Brewers. So if you trade for him, there's a pretty good chance that Stearns knows enough of what's going on with the Corbin Burnes that he'll be willing to sign an extension. I would actually trade a couple of prospects to get Corbin Burnes and even top prospects because some of them are expendable. Everybody can't play at the big league level with all of our prospects. Use some of your assets to get an ace pitcher. Get him in here. Stearns has a relationship with him. Bring him in and extend him. I think that's perfectly fine to do. And I think the Mets are going on that market because they do need an ace. I don't think they believe Kodai Senga is an ace. Now, it looked like he pitched like an ace last year because all the other pitches for the Mets were terrible. So Senga looked better than he actually was, even though Senga was very good, but he wasn't an ace. And again, would I be mad if they say we're going to make Senga our ace and we're going to go with Lucas Giolito? We're going to go with a Montgomery. All right, that's a solid 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to go crazy with that. And you still got Quintana, you got Severino, you got Hauser, and I think that's a solid 5-6-man rotation. Not great, but it's solid. And I think we learned a lot from baseball in the last couple of years that a solid rotation is better than having one ace and then a hogwash of everything else. And that's where I think the Mets are going to pivot to after the Yamamoto situation happened, because I don't think Steve Cohen is going to be willing to give $325 million to Yamamoto and not spend at least half of that or a little more than half of that on some pitching, because the Mets need pitching. And I do think it's smart to go for Corbin Burnes because I think it's easier to extend him because he was willing to extend with the Brewers. Why wouldn't he want to extend with a guy like Stearns that he knows? Stearns knows him, and he can get a pretty damn good deal in an extension. And I think that's where the Mets are going to do. A couple of months ago, even at the trade deadline, when the Mets were, not sure if they were going to be sellers or buyers, that I thought they could have went after Corbin Burnes to add to their rotation, to help out that rotation. But they decided to sell. Now I think it's a perfect time to get Corbin Burnes. It's not going to cost a ton, and the Brewers seem to be looking like they can get a little bit fleeced here. And I think that's another important thing too. And I think David Stearns knows that organization from top to bottom. He knows exactly what they need. And I think you can try to fleece them, to be honest with you, and try to get Corbin Burnes. I think that's the way to go. If you can get Lucas Giolito and Corbin Burnes, now you got a 1, 2, 3 that is probably better than half the league, to be honest with you. And then, the upside of Severino and the decent pitching of Hauser with Quintana, who also gives you innings. I think that's important. So what do you guys think? Should the Mets sign Lucas Giolito? He had a terrible season after he got traded half his season with the Angels and the Guardians. But with the White Sox, a bad White Sox team, had a 3.79 ERA. He pitched over 180 innings. I think a 4-year deal, 5-year, 5th-year with an option is the way to go for the Mets as your number 3 starter. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think. Lucas Giolito to the Mets. I want to thank you guys for watching. And as always, Mets fans, let's go Mets.